Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Cooley. I am the Targeted Outreach Director for the Department of Financial Protection and Innovation. Thank you for joining our webinar. Let's give everyone another couple of minutes before we get started. I know it's right at 12 and people are still getting off for lunch and trying to log in. So let's do 2 more minutes before we get started. Thank you. Okay, and let's go ahead and get started. Hello and welcome to the webinar. My name is Cooley. I am the Targeted Outreach Director for the Department of Financial Protection and Innovation, also known as DFBI. Today, our webinar is on Shop Smart and Safe. It's going to be a great webinar, a lot of really fantastic information, and thanks again for joining us. Let's go ahead and get started. So first things first, a little bit of housekeeping. Uh, just some disclaimers. The views and opinions expressed in this presentation are those of the presenters. They do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of the DFPI. This presentation is for educational and informational purposes only. This is not financial advice and does not replace any independent or professional judgment. We really want you to do your own research. The DFBI does not assume responsibility for the completeness of the information presented in this presentation. This webinar is being recorded and it will be published to the DFBI's YouTube channel. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel if you can. For this webinar, your cameras and microphones have been turned off, but if you do have a question, please submit it to the Zoom's Q&A feature. We have a dedicated Q&A session at the very end, and we will be answering all of your questions, or as many questions as we can. Thank you. Moving on. So a little bit about the Department of Financial Protection and Innovation, also known as the DFPI. Who are we? What is our role? What do we do? The DFPI is California's licensing and regulatory agency of state financial institutions, products, and professionals. We conduct exams to ensure compliance. We review consumer complaints that are submitted to us, and we pursue legal actions against those who are operating illegally or using unlawful, deceptive, or abusive business practices. We also provide consumer awareness presentations throughout the state of California to help protect consumers from falling prey to frauds and scams. You can always learn more about us. There's a link right there, dfbi.ca.gov/consumers. With that, I'd like to introduce Antonia Villasenor. She is one of the targeted outreach specialists with the DFPI. Antonia, please take it away.
Thank you. To start the conversation today about shopping smart and fraud prevention, I'd like to ask can you tell me what happens when you go grocery shopping when you're hungry?
Yeah, normally when you're hungry and you're shopping, you kind of just buy everything in sight and usually spend a lot more money.
I thank you. I asked because it's something that we've all experienced. This is a great example of our brains making financial decisions when we're stressed. The behavioral economists tell us, can you show the click again, please? The behavioral economists tell us that when our brain is stressed, even just from this little example of stress, the executive part of our brain that handles financial decisions literally turns off. Our brains at this time are less able to make logical choices and decisions when we're stressed and are emotional. We could list scams all day long, and the minute we stop, new ones will pop up. Being aware of how scammers and even aggressive marketers deliberately push us into emotional states is key to identifying a potential scam or a bad financial, deal for us. I'll give you some examples of the emotions. Fear, don't miss out on this great deal. There's only 2 left. Or it's an emergency. I need money. Or you owe us this bill. We're going to send somebody to arrest you if you don't pay this light bill or whatever utility bill. On the other hand, sometimes the emotions are positive, happiness and excitement. Oh, honey, I love you. I really want to come see you, but I need you to send me money because something's wrong and I can't, pay for the travel myself. Or add an investment. Look at how at your associates and friends are making money. Don't lose out. And there's only a few left. Buy it now. And these are all emotions. These are excitement. So what can we do to protect your money? What can I do to protect my money? Is pause, sleep on it, do your research, make lists, talk to legitimate resources. Holidays are emotional. Prepare to make financial decisions when your brain serves you, not scammers and aggressive marketers. A lot of us use credit cards during the holidays. And there's one study I like to point out, and that is that many people forget, the gift recipients forget within a few weeks who gave them what. And in the meantime, a lot of buyers spend months and months and months, sometimes, paying off these credit cards. So think about that when you're shopping. So shopping with a credit card. Many credit cards, it's safer to use a credit card than cash because cash can be stolen or fall out of our purses and wallets, and then it's gone. And with shopping with the credit cards, you can sometimes also extend a product warranty, replace products that are damaged or stolen. And if your card is stolen, you have consumer protection. Some credit cards even give you money back if you change your mind after the merchant's return period is ended. And you build credit history with the credit bureaus, which, if done positively, can affect your credit options later on. And there are also credit cards that reward the user with points, discounts, monthly payments, or exclusive sales. So all this will depend on your taste in shopping, and this is where doing your research about credit cards and their offers comes in. Next slide, please. And there's also disadvantages to credit cards. A credit card risk is long-term debt. Some people think, oh, I have $2,000 available on my credit card. That means I have $2,000 to spend. Not necessarily. If we overuse it, a revolving credit makes it easy for a person to spend more than their means allow. High cost of fees. Your purchase will suddenly become more expensive if you carry a balance or miss a payment. It's important to look for a credit card that fits your needs and your budget and spend what you can afford to pay off quickly. Next slide, please. Some people, instead of cash, use the debit card because it works better for them to get for the money to come straight out of their bank accounts. And that's what happens with the debit card. However, even if the credit card or just the information falls into the wrong hands, this leaves your checking account, your which is your lifeline to pay bills or withdraw cash from an ATM vulnerable. So one suggestion is, if you are going to use a debit card when you make purchases, instead of using your PIN, you can ask the cashier to run the payment as a credit transaction. I often hear them saying credit or debit, and you can just say credit. This helps to avoid using your PIN in many places, which is one layer of protection. Yes, there are some stores that won't give you this option, and it's up to you to keep shopping. But not spreading your PIN number around is one way to protect yourself and your funds. People have financial institution, banks and credit union customers have the option of having their purchases go through, even though they may not all have all the funds. And banks, the financial institution, charge for this service. This is something you can opt in or opt out of. And here's just an example to give you just an idea. Let's say I only have $8 in my account and I purchase something that costs $10. The purchase will be accepted, it'll go through, and the bank or financial institution will add a charge of $34, bringing that $10 item up to costing $44. And let me point out, this is each time. So these can rack up very quickly. So you have some options. You could decide to opt out. It may be a little embarrassing at the checkout, but you won't have these high fees. Another option is to link your checking account to a savings account or line of credit. This will equal fewer charges.
Thanks, Antonia. I just want to go over some common shopping scams. There are just so many out there that these are we just want to share some information about these most common shopping scams. So there are non-payment or non-delivery scams. So things like non-delivery scams is if you purchase something and the product is just not sent to you at all. And non-payment is something like you make a purchase, maybe someone's buying something from you and you don't get a payment, or someone pays you for the product, or maybe you ship it to them and you never get payment for it. So there's also credit card and debit card fraud that happens. We'll talk a little more about that. Auction fraud, it's where maybe you're purchasing something on e-commerce website, could be through Facebook Marketplace, and basically the product is misrepresented. So whether it's the size or the weight or the quality of the materials or something, it's essentially a form of auction or product fraud. And then there's gift card fraud, and Antonio will talk a little more about that later. There's also copycat websites. This was a pretty big thing a while ago. It's kind of rearing its head again, starting over. What's a copycat website? Well, it's basically a website that is mimicking a legitimate e-commerce website. So you might have like Amazon.com. It might look exactly like Amazon, except for the link is different. It might just be one letter, could be two letters off. The period, instead of Amazon.com, it could be AmazonC.com or something like that. So you always want to double check that when you're making purchases, when you're clicking on links, right? If you get an email saying that some new special on Amazon is available, click here. Make sure that when you click on it, if you decide to click on it, it's taking you to the legitimate website before you start entering in your login information and making purchases. There's also payment verification scams. So that's with like payment apps, Zelle. We're talking about Zelle, we're talking about PayPal, all those different payment verification scams. And we'll talk a little more about that as we go on. Antonio?
There's also alternatives to spending money. You can make a gift. Are you good at something? People really do enjoy and treasure, pictures, special pictures in a frame. You can make food for people, cookies, if you're good at some craft. You can give people favor coupons. I'll promise to wash your car, or, babysit the kids, or, pick you up from the airport. plans, whatever. Your imagination is the limit. And I find that often people treasure and remember um, gifts that I've given, that I've made for them, or that they've made for me, more than stuff we've bought for each other. So that's an option to think about. The other is planning. And this again helps us avoid those emotional moments. Set up a shopping budget and include in it, include in your holiday expenses. A lot of us don't realize, I know I didn't at one point, um, include travel expenses, entertainment, decorations. All these things, in addition to gifts, are what we spend money on during the holidays. Again, gifts you buy or make, um, include that budget in there, and also shipping expensive, because it's not cheap to send stuff to people these days.
So with the holidays, you're definitely going to get contacted by scammers, and we just want to go over some very brief terminologies. Not that you need to know this, but vishing is where a scammer is trying to contact you through telephone. Phishing is where a scammer is trying to contact you through emails or through your computer. Smishing is where a scammer is trying to contact you through text messages. It's not important to understand all of this vocabulary and language. What is most important, and what we want you to take away, is regardless of how scammers are trying to contact you, do not respond to any of these attempts, right? So things like even hanging up on them if they're calling you, or clicking on links, or replying back to their text message. The reason why you don't want to respond back is scammers basically are just spamming all these different phone numbers um, with their scam. And if you reply back, if you hang up on them, it lets them know that you exist, and even though or that the number is valid. And so even though you didn't reply back, or you didn't pick up the phone, what happens is they know that this is a live person, this is a legitimate number, and they may try again with a different scam, or they may take your number and give it to another scammer, and they'll try again with their scam. So again, what we are really trying to tell you is, do not respond to any attempts to contact you. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into the different types of scams, but it's important to know, especially during the holiday season, that you are being targeted, and you want to be very careful about scammers and how they're contacting you. Antonia?
A lot of us are buying things on the internet. So we want to talk about how to do this in a way that's safer. A lot of us have options to use multi-factor authorization for logins for banks and other kinds of um, accounts. This is a good idea. Please use it. It's another layer of protection for you. What happens is, after we log in with our passwords, we'll often get another option, either a phone call or some kind of multi-factor authorization app, or just a text. Do use this. It's a layer of protection for you. Passwords. I have a great story from a coworker, and that is when she met who's now her husband. He had a file folder titled passwords, and she said, "No, that's not going to work." So keeping them out in the open, which is pretty much equivalent of keeping them out in the open, that's not a good idea. So when she reorganized, for him, she named the file Grandma's Recipes. We're less likely to look for and try and steal Grandma's recipes. Keep your passwords a little bit complicated. Antonio123 is not a good password. And the experts tell us to change them from 3 to every 6 months, and especially right away if there's some kind of concern about identity theft. Next one. It's important to limit how much information we share on social media. Learn or ask somebody if you don't know how to limit your personal information on the privacy settings. And when I say limit personal information, Personally, I don't share my real birthday on social media. My people know when my birthday is. And frankly, information like my birthday, my address, my phone number, all of these things um, have value to scammers. We also say don't share your travel information. We sadly hear stories of people, sharing, oh, here I am at this great vacation, or I'm traveling at this great town and it's wonderful. And they go home to find an empty or burglarized home because people knew they were away from home. One option is if you're going to share, consider sharing these um, after you return home. Also, because of AI, it's important to be aware that it might be a good idea to limit video if you're going to post it with audio. We've heard stories where scammers use these recordings of our voices, manipulate them, and then try to fool other people with us, begging for money, saying that we're in trouble, or maybe even kidnapped. This has happened, so be careful. Also, don't share posts of expensive gifts or item you own. This is an advertisement, to be rock. Sorry, that's the world we live in these days. Next slide, please. Phishing. Phishing is when somebody tries to get our personal data from the internet. And there's various ways they try to do this. This is a great example coming up that I like to share, even though it's a bit dated. So this is an email from Bank of America, and it's a great sample of how one can identify that this is a scam. So it says, if you put your mouse over who it's from, you see it's not from Bank of America. If this is about my account, it should say me. It should be addressed to me and by name, not undisclosed recipient. There's 2 grammatical problems here. And what's going on? They're scaring us a bit. There's unusual activity. And for our protection, they want us to do something so we can continue activity. And if you hover your mouse over the link that's highlighted, it has nothing to do with B of A. Here's what you can do to protect yourself. Don't respond to this. Call your financial institution or your credit card company with the phone number that you find on your monthly statement. That's a number that you know is legitimate. Do not respond to this. Also, please forward these scam emails to report phishing at apwg.org. And again, people will have copies of these slides so that you can refer to this. Thank you.
Thanks, Antonia. I wanted to share another example of a phishing attempt that was actually sent to one of my team members. She took a screenshot and sent it over. So this was an email that was sent. As you could see, this is an attempt for them to get you to scan or have your phone shoot a QR code. Not sure where this QR code takes you. It could be a website. It could be some way to infect your phone with malware. This is essentially a tech support scam, but they're again they're trying to act like they're Microsoft, right, with security authentication. Luckily, again, my staff member knew exactly that this was a scam. A lot of different red flags, right? So you're looking at the from email. You're also looking at the address. This is kind of how internationally they do addresses. So yeah, there's a lot of little red flags, which shows that this is definitely a scam email. Here's another example. So this one is actually a tech support scam. It's a screenshot that one of our consumers sent over. Basically, his computer got locked down when he was, he's just on the internet. And what it's basically saying is it's asking him to call this phone number. And if he would have called the phone number, they would have taken him to some scam call center where they try to get his information and maybe get access to his computer or his accounts. So again, if you see any of this, especially this kind of a tech support scam, what you want to do is you want to just turn off your computer. If you believe your computer has been infected with malware or a virus, definitely take it to a professional to have it looked at. Don't call these numbers because Windows is not going to give you a phone number to call, and Microsoft is not going to contact you this way. So with that, I will hand it back to Antonia.
I've even gotten text message scams. This one is just a sample. And again, here, what's the emotion? We overcharged you. We're going to give you some money back. There's a little bit of happiness. Woohoo. We also get package delivery notification, online account issues. I got one that said, "Oh, there was just $1,000 purchase on your Amazon account. Click here to verify." I didn't. I went to my Amazon orders and saw that everything is like it should be. So it's really important. And this just came in a couple days ago. So they've started, or they're continuing. There's also payment app issues, bank verification or an error. Again, go to your legitimate information about your bank, call them directly. You might get a government notice, a wrong number or a fake friend, or a sweepstakes prize notification, especially if it's a sweepstakes you didn't participate in. Do not respond to any of these attempts to contact you. All they wanted to do is to take your money or somehow mostly take your money or your identity because that has value.
Here we again with all the Black Friday sales happening, most of them online right now, especially during the holidays. We do want to talk about some website safety. So here's a very good thing to remember. When you are logging into a website or thinking about doing an online transaction, right, buying something online, putting in your credit card information or payment information, make sure you're using or you're on a website that has HTTPS. That means that it's a secure connection and that your information can't be intercepted. So your personal information, your login information, your payment information. And HTTPS is a secure website. It's encrypted. None of your information is going to be able to be hijacked. However, with an HTTP website and it doesn't have an S, that's an unsecure connection. And if you're transmitting information over the internet, it can be captured. So again, a little bit of a pro tip here. Doing any kind of online shopping, make sure you're doing it on an HTTPS website. Antonio?
People are using buy now, pay later way more than before. And what it is it's a way to pay over time, and it offers an alternative way of paying. They're not using the terms credit or debit. They use the word alternative. It's really important to remember we're getting into debt and we're using credit. But they don't offer the same protections as for things we buy as a credit card, and it may complicate returns and refund requests because now we're going through another party. The DFPI regulates some of these financiers. Let us know if you have problems. Next, I have a sample image of a product that is showing us how to use or offering us the opportunity to pay with a company called Affirm. These days, phones cost over $1,000. And down at the bottom, you can say it's an offer. Oh, hey, you can pay as low as $112 a month. But if we click for more information, which we should always read the fine print, we're paying 19.99 to 20% interest, with usually without getting the benefits of paying on time, because most of these don't, or many or most of these don't report to credit bureaus. And what studies have found is that a third of people last holiday season who used buy now, pay later couldn't afford to pay all their purchases back. Because when you add on all these, pay as low as, portions, they add up to quite a bit. So consider this. It may be something that works for you, but please go in with the full picture. Do your research and figure out what works best for you financially. Some people choose to send money, as in money transfers, as a gift instead. It's really important to make sure that you use a licensed service. You can call the DFPI to verify if somebody has a license, or you can look online on our website. Um, it's really, really important to verify this, because if you don't verify that, it could be a pirate and they'll be stealing your information, including your banking information. And please note, it's like sending money in cash. Once it arrives to the recipient, that's it. And it's important to use the exact name as on the recipient's recent ID. As an example, let's say my name is Antonia and some people know me as Tony. Um, and if I address the money to somebody named Tony and Antonia goes to pick it up, they won't give her the money, because if this is a type of transaction where we're sending it to an office for people to pick up cash. So use the exact name as on their recent ID. Thank you, Kit. Also, other people opt to use gift cards. They're safest when they buy online, and you'll find out why right now. Um, if you see the image on the top right, you'll see we've circled the PIN number on the back that you'll often see on the back of a gift card. And sometimes when these are available, on the shelf for everybody to see, like in this picture, sometimes thieves go in and they manipulate this the cover, and they steal the PIN number, and then they immediately go and spend the money on it. Sometimes people aren't aware and they lose a lot of money. I've heard stories where people say, Daddy, thank you for the gift, but it wasn't any good, because let's say I buy it now, people have, over a month to thieves have over a month to steal this money if it's for a Christmas gift. So definitely make sure that it's check it for tampering. It's safer if it's sealed and behind the counter of the store where you go buy it. And just so you know, according to California law, you can cash a gift card out if it was sold after 1997 and it has a cash value of less than $10. It does not have a Visa or MasterCard logo. It doesn't have to have that. And also a big tip, gift cards are for gifts, not for emergencies. A lot of scammers ask people to pay in gift cards. Why? Because it's like handing them cash, and it's really hard once they have the money in hand to get a reimbursement, to get a refund.
Thanks, Antonia. Yeah, I do really want to, and a lot of law enforcement agencies and partners always talk about how big of a red flag it is when someone is asking you to pay in gift cards. No government agency accepts payment in gift cards, and on top of that, a lot of very legitimate organizations would not accept gift cards for payments. So, again, gift cards are usually for in-store purchases. You can do it online, of course, but really, if someone is asking you for payment via gift card, right? I want you to go buy $500 of gift cards and then give me the gift card numbers. That should be a huge red flag. And I will say also one more thing. A lot of stores nowadays are training their staff, the cashiers, to recognize if there is someone vulnerable who is being taken advantage of when they go to the store and they end up buying a huge number of gift cards or a large quantity, in gift card value. So that's good. But again, just reminder, gift cards are for gifts, non-emergencies. Okay. I do want to talk quickly about credit reports. During the holidays, when you're doing a lot of transactions, you want to make sure you do a couple different things. First of all, always check your bank account, your financial institutions, your credit card statements, because you're probably purchasing a lot. You just want to go down every one and make sure. So all the different line items, whenever all the transactions that happens, make sure that you actually did those transactions, right? The other thing is, obviously during the holidays, again, when you're probably doing a lot of purchasing, there's a lot of opportunities for scammers to get your personal information, get your financial information, and maybe even commit identity theft, right? So one of the things I always recommend is check your credit, right? You could actually request a free copy of your credit reports once every week now. You can go to each one of the credit bureaus and just submit a request to get a report. And so what you're really looking for is, again, signs of identity theft, making sure that someone didn't open up a loan in your name, or create a bank account of some sort, open up a line of credit. And again, you could also freeze your account, especially if you're doing a lot of transactions and you're really afraid. And so long as you're not opening up a new credit card or any other taking out a loan or something, you could freeze your credit card and still use your credit. Again, if you're really afraid of having identity theft happen to you, consider that. Also, it's a great time to just check your credit, and make sure that all the information there is legitimate and accurate. And if it's not, you can file a complaint. You can file it with the different credit bureaus to make sure they clean up your credit report for you, and for accuracy as well. All right, Antonio.
So again, during the holidays, there's a lot of scams. We see a lot of charity scams. They ask you to donate by a gift card, cryptocurrency, or wire transfer. Don't let them rush you. Always research any charity before you donate. I've been to plenty of community meetings where firefighters and law enforcement will say, we don't call to ask for donations. So if somebody calls you and say they're with the fire department or the police, they're probably not. They're most likely not. We also see a lot of package delivery scams with fake delivery texts, emails, calls, voicemail. They'll even include a fake tracking link with malware. Sometimes they'll ask you to pay a fee. They're holding your package, and you need to pay a fee to let it be released. So, frankly, these days, surprises are over because of these kinds of scams. Um, I, when I'm sending my friends and family packages as gifts right now, I give them a copy of the confirmation with the tracking number. I either email it or text it to them so they know it's legitimate, they know it's from me, and I may or may not tell them what's in the package. Sometimes it's in the email. It's just easier just to send them the whole thing, and that's fine. They don't. I'd rather have them spoil this surprise rather than them be more likely to be, victims of a scam. And again, we'll say, when shipping, gift cards are not for emergencies or to pay bills. These are what scammers ask for. Thanks, Coop. So steps you can take. We're reviewing what we've said earlier. Decide on how much you want to spend. Plan to save the money ahead of time. Next year, you can start to do automatic deposits, so it's not such a hit at the end of the year financially. You have a little bit of savings that you can draw from. Make a list of holiday expenses that include not just gifts, but travel, entertainment, food, and decorations. And make your list and stick to it. And I'll tell you, before I was doing this, there was one year when I opened a closet in March and there were 3 gifts because I didn't have a list that told me what I had for who, and it would have prompted me that it was in the closet. Also, it's really important to celebrate your success because you're protecting your family and your own personal finances. And it's important to celebrate this. This is an important step you're taking.
Thanks, Antonia. So there's a lot of really great tips that the FBI provides. I've linked to their article here. I just want to read a couple of them. So things like, again, we talk about making sure a website's link is legitimate before you do any kind of transaction, like logging in or putting your payment information. Again, reminder that paying by credit card gives you a lot more security and a better way to dispute the charge later. One thing that a lot of people don't really think about is checking out the buyer's reviews, right? Especially if you're buying on Amazon or other websites that allow you the ability to review either the product or the seller before you make that purchase. Um, Again, we talked about paying with a prepaid card. It's very dangerous to do that kind of a thing. Um, and also never wire money directly to a seller. You also always want to make sure you get and check on your shipping and tracking numbers. And then, of course, when you're shopping in person, you want to limit the amount of cash you're carrying, and definitely be mindful of your surroundings. So my story here is that one time I was shopping at Target. I came out. I had a bag of groceries in one hand, and I had my 4-year-old son. I was holding his hand in the other, and someone approached me asking me for money, and I knew I was in a very precarious situation there. So again, you always want to be mindful of the surroundings. Be careful when you're out there, you're shopping. Another example that one of our partners told us about is if you leave like your purse in your shopping cart and you turn around to grab something, or maybe someone comes to distract you, right? They ask you a question about something, you turn, and then they might have someone else grab your purse out of your cart. So again, be mindful of your surroundings when you're out there and you're shopping. Uh, we talked about text messages and email scams, and also, again, checking your financial accounts regularly, especially when you make so many transactions. Okay, again, so a little more shopping tips, things like Antonia's talked about, planning ahead, avoiding impulse buys. You also want to have a budget, and you want to check the seller business reviews and their refund policies as well. We talked about credit card, using a credit card for better protection, getting tracking numbers, keeping receipts, double checking email links and offers that are emailed to you, right? Someone sending you an offer about a new TV or whatever electronic device. Sounds like it's a great opportunity to buy something, but if you click on it, it may actually take you to a copycat website, or it might just be a scam link. So definitely want to double check on email links before you click on them, and definitely do your research right before you buy anything. You don't want to suffer from buyer's remorse. So with that, Antonia.
So trust your instincts. Please remember, these tips will help you save your money. Trust your instincts. If it's too good to be true, it's probably not real. Avoid, again, financial decisions when someone is rushing you, when you're tired, hungry, emotional. Best thing is to pause, sleep on it. There's no legitimate financial transaction that can't wait 24 business hours if somebody's trying to rush you. And also, please submit a complaint to the department. You can go online and submit one at DFPI's website, or you can call our consumer services office Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30, and ask us to send you a form in the mail. Hearing from you is one key way for the department to learn about wrongdoing by financial service providers. And if we don't license the company or people you're complaining about, the department will forward your complaint to the appropriate agency. It doesn't go in the circular bin. And if somebody's operating without a license, we want to know too. So here's some contact information. And you can call us, or you can email us at outreach@dfpa.ca.gov. And a shameless pitch, in education and outreach, we do these presentations in person to groups in English and Spanish and Korean. Let us know. We'll be happy to come to your community and give a presentation on this and a variety of other financial education and financial fraud prevention topics.
Okay, with that, we are at the Q&A session. So just as a reminder, if you do have a question, please submit it into the Zoom's Q&A feature. It looks like we have a number of questions already. So I'll just go ahead. Antonia, you and I can kind of tag team these. And again, please submit your questions through the Zoom's Q&A feature. So first question, can we get a copy of these slides? Answer is yes. Again, the webinar is being recorded and we will be publishing the webinar to our YouTube channel. I'll also send out a follow-up email to everyone who registered for this webinar. The follow-up email will have a link to the YouTube recording as well as a copy of these slides. So look out for that. Okay, next question. What are the potential risks with using contactless payment and digital wallets? Good question here. So in terms of contactless payments, so that's using like a contactless, nowadays a lot of your credit card, debit cards have the ability to just tap and pay. And then of course that applies to like phones as well. You could tap and pay with a payment app. On smartphones that have that ability, and digital, those usually have digital wallets as well. So what is the risk here? Well, if you're talking about using a credit card or a debit card that has contactless payments, usually the risk is pretty low. However, there's this thing called credit card skimming or card skimming. That's where scammers put a device right over the payment device. It could be, most times it's on a gas station or sometimes at an ATM. It's usually where there's not someone who's always monitoring the payment device. And so what happens is when you tap, it captures that information. And then it also sometimes will capture you putting in your PIN number, right? So if it's at a gas station or ATM, it'll capture when you do a wireless tap, it'll capture the credit card information and then of course your PIN number. So be very, very careful. I always tell everyone when you're using a public ATM or when you're using a gas station you're not familiar with, you want to make sure you're very careful before you go through the payment. Of course, you can always just go directly into the gas station and do the transaction there as well. If you're not sure about the payment device that's on the gas the gas machine. In terms of using phones, right? So like you have a smartphone and a digital wallet, and you're using it to tap and pay. There is always risk involved, but the good thing is that if you're using, let's say, Apple Pay or using Google Wallet or any of those devices, they usually have a way that you can dispute charges. So even though your transaction is legitimate, if someone else took your information and started charging using your information, you could dispute those. And for the most part, from what I hear, Apple and Google and those, I think PayPal as well, they're pretty good. Like Samsung Pay, I think they're pretty good about helping consumers out with those disputes. So I hope that answered the question. It's kind of a long question. It's a very good question. It's a long answer to a very good question. And Tony, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I just read a couple of days ago that if you're at a machine and you're putting in a PIN number and you have to press really hard, that's evidence of a skimmer being attached. And I frankly, when I use machines like this, I wiggle it. And if I can wiggle it, and I've actually not encountered this, but I also try to wiggle it to see if there's something physically been attached, if the skimmer's physically been attached to the machine.
Oh yeah, I've done that before too. I don't wiggle, but what I do is I go along the edges and I just kind of stick my fingernail in to see if I could pull it off. There's been a couple of times where I've looked at it and it was pretty suspect for me. But it's legitimate. It just looked like it was, very worn down. So that's fine. Okay. Next question. Are there any specific tools or technologies recommended for enhancing data privacy while shopping online? Yes, there's a number of different tools, but it depends. This is very broad. It's a very broad question. It's a good question, very broad, and I'm going to have to give you a broad answer here. So yes, there is tools. I don't know. There are tools out there to enhance your data privacy while you're shopping, right? So using a VPN, also known as a virtual private network, If you don't want your information taken, you can subscribe to one. It costs money. It's a monthly subscription. There are free VPNs out there. I don't think they're that great. The ones that you pay for get a lot better service. And yes, it would definitely help you. It's another layer of protection when you're using a VPN while you're doing your online shopping. There's also a lot of different ways you could just shop privately, right? Not privately, but you could shop without using your information, right? So Google has the ability to, Google Chrome has the ability for you to browse in incognito mode. And so basically, it doesn't use any of your personal information when you're online. And so I think a lot of the other browsers have that ability too. It's opening up like a private tab or private browsing or something like that. So a lot of different ways to try to, keep your personal data, safe while you're shopping online. So I would just do a little more research. Okay, next question here. How can consumers contribute to creating a safer shopping environment? Well, really the best thing you can do is if you notice any, okay, easiest thing you could do, especially if you were, let's just say you have a bad experience, is just leave a review, right? So whether it's with a seller or maybe the product that you got, just leave a review, because really that's kind of just helping out the next person who is either looking at that product or looking to buy from someone that this is a bad transaction for whatever reason, right? Maybe the return policy was not good, or maybe they're slow to react, maybe the shipping was whatever it is. Your review helps other buyers, right? The other thing you can do is, especially if it's a fraud or a scam, you can submit a complaint to the DFPI, and your complaint gets added to other complaints, and it helps us build a case when we are investigating scammers, fraudsters, even businesses that are using unscrupulous business practices. So yeah, a lot of different ways you can contribute to creating a safer shopping environment. Next question: where can I check on the legitimacy of a charity? Antonia, you want to answer that?
Yes, you can check with the IRS, and you could just Google IRS charity or charity scam or watch, and you'll find the IRS website that'll tell you if these folks have a legitimate 501c3 certification tax status. They need that, otherwise they're not a charity. You can also just Google the name of the folks that are, the group that are trying to ask you, and say charity and scam, and find out if it's a scam. Sometimes you'll find out right away. It's important to pay attention to their name and web address, because scammers often mimic the names of familiar, trusted organizations to deceive donors. Don't let folks pressure you at the door for donations. Keep a record of your donations, and review your credit card account to make sure you weren't charged for more than what you agreed to give, or if you unknowingly signed up for a recurring donation. And don't give financial and personal information such as your social security number, your date of birth, or your bank account number. They use that data to steal money and identities. Don't click on links in unsolicited email, text, or fundraising messages, because those can unleash malware. And again, just you can Google simply, the name of the organization that's approaching you, and the word legitimate or scam, and you can find out quickly. You can and you can protect yourself this way. And again, if anybody's pressuring you or asking you to donate by gift card, bingo, that's a scam.
Great, thanks, Antonia. I know we're kind of running short in time. I'm going to try to fly through these last couple questions. Great question here, more of a comment, but I keep getting USPS, which is United States Post Office, Postal Service, text messages that my package is undeliverable. It's a scam. Yes. I've got a lot of those as well. You know, a text message saying your package has arrived, or it's your package is delayed, and please click on this link or call this number. Right? Obviously, you don't want to click on the link. You don't want to call the number. What we recommend is if you're waiting for a package, if you're expecting something, just go directly to the U.S. Post Office website, or if it's a UPS or if it's FedEx, go directly to the website, check on it there. Don't click on the text message or the link that you get. Okay, next question. How can consumers verify the authenticity of products, especially when buying online? You know, it's a little bit difficult, especially if you haven't purchased from that vendor. But there's a lot of different things, right? Again, we talk about checking reviews of the seller. The other thing you could do is check on the reviews of the product that they're selling. That kind of is a really good way to make sure you're getting exactly what you're supposed to get. Another thing you can do is there's a lot of third party organizations out there, things like the BBB, right, the Better Business Bureau, Yelp, all these other organizations that provide ratings so that you can check to make sure that a seller is authentic. And hopefully that can help you there. Antonia, did you want to add anything?
Yes, and this is the moment of, is it too good to be true? If somebody is selling, $1,000 item for $50, it's either stolen or it doesn't exist, or they're not going to send you anything. And um, in some ways, it is safer to buy from a larger legitimate company than a one-off, one-time individual selling something. And always check their refund policies. Are there?
Yeah, and I will add, like with Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist, if you use that, um, I would never ever recommend sending money before you actually see the physical product, right? If someone's saying, "Hey, send me money and then I'll send you the product," or anything like that, I would not do it. That's a huge red flag. Most, or actually, all legitimate sellers will allow you to see the product before you pay for it. And if again they're demanding payment first, huge red flag. Okay, what do you think about Venmo and Zelle? So Venmo and Zelle are two different payment apps. Zelle works with banks. Venmo is just a different payment app on smartphones. Um, I think so. They work. The But there's always a chance for fraud. And what I always recommend for people to do is double, triple check who you're sending money to, or even who sending money to you, right? I've heard of individuals getting a notification that money is being sent to them, and if you hit accept, what happens is the transaction goes pending, but then the person sending you money cancels the transaction, and then they put a dispute in, and sometimes it'll be Venmo or Cash App or whatever. They may take money out of your account and give it to that person, the scammer. So again, be very, very cautious. Always double, triple check who you're sending money to using one of those cash apps. And then, of course, if money is being sent to you, you want to double check, triple check before you accept that payment. Okay, here's another one. Great presentation. I would add that we also watch any loved ones who may be vulnerable. Yes, yes. To many of these scams. Absolutely. Elderly parents, grandparents, be observant of their behavior or expressions after taking mysterious phone calls, etc. Yes. So important, especially during the holiday season. Check up on your loved ones, right? Your parents, your grandparents, your uncle, aunts, uncles, check up on them and share this information. It's so important. So yes. Any problems with? Oh, here's another question about Venmo and Zelle. Again, Venmo and Zelle, it's a legitimate payment app. The problem is, again, you need to verify. So important. Verify who you're sending money to and who is asking money from you, right? So it's all about doing your research, double checking, triple checking before you make that transaction.
And if you have more than one bank account, consider attaching these payment apps to an account that isn't your primary account. Because if somebody gets access to the account that you have to pay your monthly bills from, that could be trouble.
Okay, a couple more questions before we move on. I tend to make all purchases with a debit card to reduce credit card debt. Is this a bad idea? It's not necessarily a bad idea. The problem is debit cards do not provide the same protections as credit cards. And there's a lot of information out there. It's harder to dispute a debit card transaction than it is a credit card transaction. And this is the reason why. The process is almost the same, right? You go to your bank, and if it's a debit card transaction, you want to dispute. You go to your bank, you tell them this transaction I didn't do, and they will start the process. Unfortunately, that transaction, let's just say someone spent $100 in your bank account, you don't get that money back until the bank verifies that it was a non-legitimate transaction, right? With a credit card, it's just credit, right? It's $100 credit. You don't have to make a payment on that $100, and so it's not money out of your account. It's not money out of your pocket, and so it's that idea that if you don't have a lot of money in your bank account and you're maybe making purchases at places that are a little bit suspect, credit card is better place. The credit card is better to use because again, you get better protections. But you can still absolutely use debit cards for transactions. Again, as Antonia said, if you're somewhere physical, you could always tell them to run your debit card as a credit card. And then, of course, making a dispute is harder on the debit card. So again, up to you. I recommend using a debit card, a credit card, sorry, when you're doing those kinds of transactions. So next question on Zelle, if you get scammed, banks can't stop payment. It's not as safe. So that's correct. Zelle takes money directly out of your account. Zelle takes money directly out of your account. It works with banks. And again, that's why I say you want to double, triple check before you send money using Zelle as an app. Okay. I know it's past one. A lot of people are leaving right now. I do want to do a little bit of housekeeping here. So as a reminder, again, subscribe to the DFPI's newsletter. So important because you'll get notifications about these type of events, as well as our in-person events, a lot of consumer alerts and other great information. We have a YouTube channel right there is a link to it. That's where this webinar will be published. All of our other webinars are published there. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel if you can, and provide us your feedback. It's so important to us that we continue to improve these webinars and other presentations. Let me know. Maybe there's too many slides, we talked too fast, the Q&A session wasn't long enough. Put it into our feedback survey, and we will definitely take your feedback into consideration. And finally, we have two different webinars. One coming up in about 2 weeks is Understanding the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. That's on December 6th at 11 a.m. There's a link to register for it. And then, of course, our last financial education webinar this year, it's about end of year financial planning. That's on December 20th at 12 p.m. And the link to it, register is right there. With that, I want to say thank you. And, please take care of each other and have a great holiday season. Goodbye.